What's up, guys? Big Rob here. I wanted to make a video about the Alliance side race class combos that I thought were going to be viable since I made a Horde video, and probably some people out there who want to know a little bit more about the Alliance. And it's good to know, even if you are Horde, what the Alliance are going to do, because we're going to be primarily fighting them. So after I'm going to talk about a little bit of the Horde v Alliance in terms of why I chose Horde. I think they're better overall, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some routes too if there's some time left. Anyways, let's get right into it. Human, the standard race, comparable to Orc on Horde side. Warrior, Paladin, Rogue, Priest, Mage, Warlock. Their racial ability is a unique active ability where stealth protection is increased, meaning if there is a rogue in your vicinity, they will be revealed to you much closer than if, you know, normal rogues tried to kill you. You were not going to see it. Human, you're going to see them from pretty far away, but most good rogues will counter this and know you're a human, and they will just wait and not open and just wait. That's definitely a thing they do. Or they'll just run from you while you run around perception looking for them. They'll just run away from you. They won't engage. Definitely a tactic. It happens. So in my mind, humans lose value overall. Probably the worst race on Alliance, other than melee classes such as the Warrior, the Paladin, and the Rogue, because of their skills with swords and maces. That's going to make them do more damage overall. So yeah, just really underwhelming of a race overall. And it's funny because in later expansions they become probably the king race for a long period of time, but in Classic they are just not that great. I would really recommend to just play a melee character if you are going to play them, because they're pretty good in that department. But in terms of being a caster, gnomes are usually your better options, but we'll talk about gnomes later on. Dwarf. Dwarves are super unique race of the Alliance, and not only because they're one of the only races that can be a paladin besides human, but also because their priests have a unique ability, and stone form itself is a pretty useful and impactful ability. So first, let's talk about their priests. Like I just said, they have Fear Ward, and Fear Ward is a buff that you can place on a teammate that basically, if they are feared by somebody, it will just take the buff and they will not get feared. And this also applies in PvE and raids and things like that. So Dwarf Priests have themselves a little niche cut out there, and it will always be useful. Good choice. Dwarf Hunter obviously synergizes well with the gun skill increase. Another option for you. I think if you really want to play a Hunter, though, you're probably better off to go Night Elf. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, you could play your traditional Paladin, and that's definitely really good on Dwarf, especially for PvP. Being able to remove bleeds, diseases, and poisons off yourself is a pretty good ability. It's a 3-minute cooldown, but still very useful for a PvP Ret Paladin / Holy Paladin. You know what I mean? Getting those pesky rogue bleeds and poisons off is going to be a big deal and turn the tide when you're in battle. You could play a Warrior and a Rogue too. On Dwarf, absolutely, definitely fun choices. As a race overall, I would say Dwarf is pretty good. You're not going to go wrong with any race class combo you make. Night Elves. Night Elf. They can be a Warrior, Hunter, Rogue, Priest, or a Druid. The only Alliance race that can be a Druid. And their active ability, racial, is may fade into the shadows. It's called Shadow Meld. It's actually a 10-second cooldown, only usable outside combat, stationary camouflage stealth ability. Now what that means is if somebody runs by you and you are shadow melded, they will not see you, but you will see them and you get the jump on them. So it's a pretty big advantage in PvP, especially for warriors and hunters. And it can be useful for rogues if they want to get a re-stealth, or druids as well if they want to get a re-stealth. Priests, I could see it being used, but overall I think Night Elf Priest is very weak, especially when you have Alliance priests like Human and Dwarf who have unique abilities. Oh, I didn't mention before, Human priests have Desperate Prayer. That is an instant heal ability, pretty good. So anyways, Night Elves. Druid, obviously they can only be druids if you want to play a Night Elf. Synergy well. Rogues have a cool synergy with Night Elves in that they can re-stealth off of their Shadow Meld, which is, like I said, 10-second cooldown. But unique thing about them is they have improved stealth overall. So in a stealth versus stealth scenario, Night Elves are always going to pretty much get the opener on the other rogue because of their enhanced stealth capabilities. So that's like a unique tidbit of information for like rogue one-on-ones and things like that. And good to know, though. And yeah, I would say final point on Night Elves is Night Elf Hunters are probably known as like the ganking machines. You know, they just sit there and then they just shoot you from 30 yards away, and you're like, where the hell am I getting shot from? And then they're just dead. So yeah, get used to that one. That'll be a real popular thing going on. But overall, they're not that great. But it's just something to be on the lookout for. And like I said before, don't play a Night Elf Priest. That's bad. That's bad. Don't play that. Let's talk about my homies, the Gnomies. The Gnomes are probably the best race on the Alliance overall, um, in terms of being a caster, because the way their talents or their racials all synergize with being a caster, it's just absolutely perfect. Every single one of them works well with being a caster. So it may escape from speed altering effects. This ability is called Escape Artist. It's got a 1 minute cooldown, so it's pretty usable, and it allows you to get out of any route or slow. So that's very good for a caster, and it's good for a warrior or a rogue as well. Um, Absolutely, but like I said, with the other three, increased int, the resistance to arcane, and the engineering skill increase, these go great for PvP casters. Um, the arcane resist will help you reduce resist counterspell, which can really screw your opponent over. And the escape artist can help a warlock just get out. That's the only thing a warlock can't do is get away, you know. So definitely super strong. Um, yeah, all in all, the Alliance is a pretty good choice, and they're definitely not super weak compared to the Horde. But I want to talk about why I think the Horde is overall. And I kind of just compared them to, you know, side by side each race, and just I just, you know, really found that Horde they're just better. And you know, the hardiness and the berserking is clearly better than the human stealth detection and the slight increase on the swords, whereas, you know, you know, this has no use for a caster, you know, whereas this, you know, the enrage, it works for every one of these races. Same with the stun resist, it's useful for all of these guys. So the Horde is pretty much, or Horde orcs are pretty much way better than Alliance humans. So that's the first step. Next one, undeads. Undeads have will, and that's basically all they have, but I think it's such a good ability, and it's definitely better than Stone Form overall. So if we're going to compare these guys directly, it's definitely better than Stone Form overall. However, Dwarf Priests are a pretty niche thing, so I think Dwarves would edge out Undeads slightly, maybe, but just how many people are actually going to be Dwarf Priests? Don't think there will be that many, and there's going to be a million undead. So again, undeads take the cake here. Night Elves and Taurens are pretty comparable, but again, their abilities are both kind of the same in terms of like how they affect the gameplay. It's not too big of an impact, right? But War Stomp definitely has more PvE application than Shadow Meld does. Except for Shadow Meld, I guess you could hide and res up your team if you want, but you know, War Stomp, you can stun people, set it up into a fear, you know, peel for a healer with that stun. And then also their increased range on melee really is going to make Tauren warriors and enhancement shaman something interesting. That's going to be an interesting thing with these guys for sure. And so I'll say these guys are about even at the end of the day, to be fair, because Night Elves are pretty good, and we don't really know how serious the melee leeway is going to play into effects. We think it's going to be played into pretty heavily, but we'll see. And then finally, Gnomes, obviously they're really great, but compared to Trolls, Trolls are pretty damn great too, especially Troll Shadow Priests, which are like the hidden gem of Troll race, because they have Hex of Weakness, they have Shadow Guard, both abilities highly underlooked, very powerful. And Gnomes simply are just only really well suited to be a caster, whereas these guys are suited for every single one of these classes, really. All their racials play into it, where these guys, they only can really be two. I mean, they could be these two, but like, what is increased intelligence going to do for a warrior or a rogue? You know, it's not really doing much. So at the end of the day, again, Trolls are just played up better overall. You know, there's just more pros to being Horde side than there are to being Alliance, and that's what it comes down to, you know. And also, I think because of that, and it's not that uncommon of knowledge, most people who want a PvP are going to be Horde. So unless you have a consistent group of friends to really rely on as alliance, because you will get ganged up on and then you won't be able to do what you want to do on that character. I mean, you just got to go horde, because not all the time are you going to have 5 people who are going to come help you or play with you. And if you do, great, but I know for myself that's not always the case. You know, people are not always the most reliable, especially in World of Warcraft, and especially in the beginning of the game. There's going to be people quitting left and right. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Um, Anyways, I hope you guys liked the video. As you can see, I'm on Herod PvP. This is my character, Brink. I'm gonna have a shaman too, probably as my alt. And I'm not really sure where else I might play. I know I have some other friends that are playing on fair ranks. I think it's a West server, but I might play there just to play with a couple of my other friends too. So who knows? Anyways, thanks for watching the video, guys. I'll talk to you later.